no seats. Come on in. Thanks for joining us. It's the Inside Organic, elevating the benefits of organic from seed to shelf. And I'm Nancy Coulter-Parker. I'm the Director of Content Marketing from New Hope Network, which is a division of Informa. And I oversee the Inside Organic program that we produce in partnership with Informa's Supply Portfolio, which puts on this show. And I've also written the Organic Trade Association's annual industry survey report for the last 10 years. So that's given me a few insights into this industry. The organic marketplace continues to grow, and currently OTA numbers put it at reaching $67.6 billion in sales in 2022, and organic food crossed the $60 billion mark for the first time last year as well. And at the same time, we're also seeing a lot of growth in regenerative organic certification, and I know in speaking with that group, they've had just sort of record numbers of global acreage converting to that ROC certification, which is great to see as well. So the intent of Inside Organic is to elevate education, communication, and messaging around organic across the supply chain, but to do so requires us to work together, both as an industry to ask hard questions, collaborate, and share information, and that's what we're going to do today. We're going to hear from industry experts as we dive into the latest organic data, policies, and research shaping today's organic marketplace. And as we do, we're going to evaluate where barriers exist and opportunities lie across the supply chain. On the messaging front, I just want to draw your attention to two, oops, what did I just do? I don't know. Show announcements. There we go. To two just content assets that are out there right now. This is part of our program for Inside Organic, and it says newhope.com at the top. You can also find this on Food and Beverage Insider or Natural Products Insider. Both, all of these sites have access to the Inside Organic assets, but this is a toolkit that we just introduced that basically covers all things organic, from strengthening organic, which we're going to hear about today, how to get certified, but also it also talks about the latest scientific research in organic and trends and just different ways that people are messaging organic as well. So it's a free download that's on the site. And then you're going to see this later on today as well. Sorry, I just lost my notes here. This you'll find on the OTA site. And the OTA site has, under their resources, they have a lot of toolkits. And in particular, again, this is just an example of the type of messaging, tools for messaging that are out there right now, and ways of, framing. Just sort of, sometimes we get stuck on, how do we talk about organic? And again, Inside Organic was actually born out of conversations I had with companies where they were like, their biggest barrier to growth was people's confusion around organic and how to talk about it and consumer awareness. So just now we're sort of trying to develop these assets where we can share that organic's good for the planet, good for people and animals, and good for business as well, and then sort of backing it with research that now can help you frame those conversations. So then starting us off today, we have Sherry Fry, who's Vice President Total Wellness from Nielsen IQ, and she's going to share the latest insights on today's organic consumer and really market trends that are influencing and aligning with organic. And then we're going to have industry veteran and expert Gwendolyn Wired, who's the former Vice President of Regulatory and Technical Affairs for OTA, and more recently a founding partner and manager of Strengthening Organic Systems. She's going to lead our panel discussion on understanding, verifying, and elevating organic certification with our partners. And then that panel includes Joe Rouleau, who's the head of sustainability of Saranda, Maxine Weber, the global director of marketing from Ashland's nutraceutical business, Ashley Matheson-Scholl, who's the president of Protein Research, and Tess Barr, co-founder of Bright Pharma Caps. And I got to say, it's a relief that Gwendolyn's going to be moderating this panel. I'm off the hook, which makes me very happy. But to kick us off, here's Sherry, and she's going to have a little bit of time for Q&A at the end of her part, and then we'll also have time after the panel for Q&A then as well. So thank you for being here, and here's Sherry.
Thank you very much. Just set this here. Hi, everyone. So it is great to see you. We were just laughing, the panelists and I, that we We all have been walking across the floor, eating anything we can put into our mouth, so we're all going to be pretty hyped up for you today. What I'm going to share with you is just what is happening, as Nancy said, with some trends around organic. And then I'm actually going to share with you some of the trends that I wouldn't believe about what's happening with organic. So we'll kind of dive into what I'm talking about there. But I wanted to just set this up for you in terms of some research that some folks at Acosta had done in terms of why consumers are saying they're purchasing organic. And I think it's really interesting. And by the way, this presentation is on the supply side website, so feel free to download it. It's the whole presentation is there. But at the top, it's better for me, personal health, and I'm going to come back to that repeatedly through today's conversation. The avoiding of chemicals and avoiding of processed foods, interestingly, right? Those are the three things that consumers are attributing to organic when they're making that purchasing decision. Now, when we look at consumers that are natural and organic shoppers versus just general conventional shoppers, you can clearly see this focus and this interest on ingredients, the specific ingredients, where conventional shoppers, of course, are prioritizing price a little bit more overall when it comes to organic. We actually are seeing one of the things that we've been looking at in our research. We're about to release a report in November on transparency in the food supply, and we have seen just continued year-over-year increase in consumers wanting ingredient information, very specific around ingredients. That continues to just pop to the top of the list. So we anticipate that will continue even with non-organic shoppers. And again, when we ask, this is Acosta research, when we're asking again, why are you choosing, right? What's at the top of the list from an importance standpoint? It's interesting that consumers are saying it's about clean, it's about non-synthetic, it's about the non-GMO and the certifications. So overall, kind of the perceptions that consumers have when they are prioritizing shopping for organic products. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit of the bad news. I want to set the stage of what's been happening in the last year, and nothing is going to shock you because you're all consumers and you've all spent more money at the grocery store. We have seen, over the last 3 years, our dollars are not going as far, and inflation has really had an impact. So let me tell you a couple of the positives. We actually did some research earlier this year with McKinsey & Company around, is there a business case for sustainability? And with sustainability, we identified it in terms of organic, environmental, animal welfare, social responsibility, and packaging. The positive news is, over 5 years of data, we did find that yes, there is actually better growth for the products that have claims than the products that don't have claims. So there's a business case. That idea and that framework of looking at it with those 6 pillars is really kind of key to the industry. But you can see here, the entire industry saw phenomenal growth, right? When you think about the grocery stores in general, the CPG space, when we all stopped shopping, or when we all stopped going out to eat during the pandemic, and then you could see the trends are kind of continuing to go down. And in general, many of these, this is unit growth too. So I'm going to show you dollar growth and unit growth today, but I wanted to show you unit growth because frankly, that's a more real metric because of what's happening just in terms of EQ volume and volume overall. The landscape that organic is playing in continues to explode. So we track over 100 different attributes around sustainability or social responsibility, packaging, etc. I love this bubble chart. I'm a data nerd, so I love to show a lot of data at one time. And so to orient you to what you're looking at here, across the bottom, that is the number of categories in the store. So category would be strawberries, category would be cereal, across the store. And then the vertical axis is the growth versus, on this one, 3 years ago. The size of the bubble is the size of the sales. So that actually just gives you a perspective of what's happening. So organic positioning is really well penetrated in comparison to many of the other claims that you're seeing in the store. But I want to give you a little bit of perspective of some of the kind of fastest growing claims and where the conversation has been lately around sustainability. So upcycled there in the upper left-hand corner, and regenerative agriculture. Those are kind of two of the ones that are getting a lot of conversation in the marketplace, just a lot of we continue to see that there'll be strong growth in those areas. But the size of the bubble, I just want to orient you, right? The size of the bubble is small, so that means the sales today are small, and it's not in a lot of categories because it's over there on the upper left-hand side. Now, the other thing that you can see here, it is easier and really good for consumers to shop their values, to show who they are by what they're buying in the store. We are really fascinated at Nielsen IQ because we have so many industries that are looking at the sales data in the consumer in the grocery stores, because they're saying energy industry, transportation industry, because they're saying this is the space, right? Yes, we know the prices have increased, but this is a space, there are a lot of transactions. This is where you can really see what consumers are prioritizing, what's important to them. You can look at this and you can say, this is fantastic. There's so many different ways that consumers can shop their values. You can also look at this and say, this is overwhelming for a consumer, right? There's all these different claims. There's so much. Frankly, we track hundreds of claims, and every month there are new claims coming in, and sometimes we are like, what does that even mean? Like, you know what I mean? We really don't even know what some of these claims mean. And so there's also this reality of confusion from a consumer standpoint, which I think puts organic in a very unique situation in terms of the clarity that it provides for consumers. So again, just a little bit of a perspective of the lay of the land. I just wanted to dive a little deeper because I had mentioned that the research showed that consumers had this kind of halo effect around clean label and ingredients when they were looking for organic. So again, I wanted to just show you, again, the organic positioning, but then relate it to something like non-GMO, that large orange bubble, so larger in terms of size, slightly more penetrated than organic, and then free from pesticides and antibiotics. And then I also, and I'll dive into this in the next couple slides, we look at organic in a variety of ways in terms of how we're tracking trends. We look at if the brand is positioning themselves as organic. We look at the percentage, if it's the certification specific, other certifications like EU certifications. We look at the percentage of organic as well. So there's a variety of ways that you can kind of look at that. I want to tell you one really positive thing. In addition to the fact that there was a business case for sustainability, the other piece that we found really fascinating in the research that we did was products, brands that had claims around sustainability have a higher loyalty with consumers, a higher repeat rate. The great part was we took this research out to the industry and we started talking to them. Many companies will say, when it comes to sustainability, can we charge more? Can we charge a price premium? And we've said that's not always the right question, right? It's really about loyalty with consumers, right? It's really about helping your business be more sustainable overall. And you can see that with those high level of repeat rates. Many people don't realize this, when you think about where organic is sold. So I just wanted to give you a bit of a lay of the land. Most of organic in the marketplace, in terms of the CPGs, consumer packaged goods space, is actually sold in the conventional channel, followed by warehouse and club, and then mass merch. And Premier Fresh, this is really kind of our terminology for the natural channel. They represent a smaller percentage of the organic sales overall, but I do want to call out that they index at about a 752 in terms of their kind of rate overall. This is where I'm going to show you, I'm a data person, and I'm going to say, don't really pay attention to my data. Just joking. So when you look at what's happening, and again, I mentioned, we track organic in a variety of ways. We wanted to show you the latest year versus year ago. We also wanted to show you dollars versus units. And we wanted to put that in comparison to non-organic. So you can see pretty much across the board, and you all know this, right? You're in this space. The dollars are up greater, the units are down. In the last year, consistent actually, non-organic is happening, but organic has had greater declines overall in units than the non-organic. But then contrast that to a 4-year CAGR, and you can actually see that longer term that the growth, especially in both dollars and units, is higher in many of the cases, at least positive in many of the cases. So a lay of the land, the reason I say don't totally pay attention to this is, as you all know, there's a lot of things that have been happening in terms of supply issues, in terms of challenges just from a pricing standpoint. This is a look at the categories in the store. The dark blue is the dollar change versus year ago. The lighter blue or teal is the unit change versus year ago. These are organized in terms of the size. So the largest grocery organic sales is in grocery, followed by produce, followed by dairy. Generally, you can look at this and it's kind of that story, right? Dollars are up, units are down, pretty much across the board. We really kind of expect that because of inflation. One of the things we track is an attribute called better for. Organic falls into this, and what it means is it's better for society, it's better for people's personal health, and it's better for the environment. So it kind of encapsulates all of that. What we have seen, and this is why it's hard when you look at just year and year ago trends, what we've seen, March of last year, inflation really started having an impact on wellness overall, organic in particular, better for overall. That occurred all the way through July of this year. We're starting to see a rebound. So when you look at trends, you actually have a lot of like this interim kind of effect that's occurring. And so we actually are seeing this come back. The only piece that we would say is concerning that we're watching and we continue to watch is the organic penetration, household penetration. So this is a 1.4% drop in households that were purchasing organic. That's actually a big deal when you see a drop like that because of how well penetrated organic was. It was the first attribute. We track a variety of wellness trends. It was the first attribute where we did start seeing the impact of inflation. It was the first place where we saw consumers trading out. We'll continue to share this with you because we think it's an important one to track that we are bringing consumers back, that they're actually coming back to the space overall. This is basically a slide that shows you it has been a train wreck in terms of distribution, sales, and that's what's kind of underneath, as all of you know, that's kind of what's underneath what's happening. But we do believe that demand is now starting to come back and starting to rise. Many folks often ask what are the categories that are most interesting and that are driving growth for organic. And so what we look at here, on the left, the first 10 are the list of the top organic categories in the store in terms of kind of the size, the share of organic versus the total category sales. The second set is the fastest growing organic categories, and you can see some consistencies, right? Extracts, herbs, spices, baby food, on both eggs on both of those lists. The other piece that we track is we track what consumers type in when they go to a retailer website. And this would be Amazon, this would be Walmart, Kroger. We're tracking what they're writing in. We love it. Because it's where you can find out what consumers are really looking for before we maybe even as an industry are recognizing it. And this is the top categories that we are seeing consumers search for when they're searching for organic X or organic Y when they're going onto a site. And those in bold at the bottom are the ones where we've seen growth versus a year ago. So again, just a lay of the land of what's happening. When you think about what consumers are looking for, and when they say, like, I'm looking at a food and beverage product, what do I prioritize in terms of attributes? Of course, it's the basics, right? The sugar, the carbs, et cetera. Those are always going to be at the higher level. Certified organic falls into that middle level. It's above 10%, and we kind of put it into the minimal processing, and then you can see it in relationship to some of the emerging areas around how things are grown and ethical practices overall. The reason I kind of led at the beginning with this idea that consumers are thinking about organic as it relates to health is one of the interesting things that we are finding is consumers are really integrating this idea of their personal health, the health of the planet, and the health of others more than we've ever seen before. And in fact, altruism, we track this every year, this innate hierarchy of needs that consumers have around wellness. We actually found altruism, even in this year where we had high inflation, it increased in importance in 2023 for consumers. And so we're continuing to anticipate that will be important. And the reason you will care about that is that people that are proactive with their health, strong organic shoppers. They're also heavy environmental, people that care about the environment, strong organic shoppers. I just kind of wanted to share this interesting research with you. We're still trying to kind of get our arms around completely what's underneath the covers here, but we thought you would find this kind of fascinating. So we track consumers, a consumer panel, and every year we ask them, what ailments do you or someone in your household have? We're doing some really fun stuff, by the way, on Ozempic right now, and the people that are on Ozempic and an impact on food. But we looked at the consumers. We had a hypothesis that people that were interested in health or maybe had health ailments would actually be high organic shoppers. And in general, we actually didn't find that to be the case overall for consumers on things like diabetes or cancer or just being overweight overall. But we did find consumers that had food allergies, consumers that had celiac disease, much higher in terms of their being organic shoppers, indexing very high, which, our hypothesis here is these are people that have to pay attention, right? They really have got to be focused and paying attention to labels, but it seems like an opportunity. That previous slide seems like an opportunity for organic, recognizing there's this kind of perception from consumers around health. My last slide I just want to share with you, I think second to last. So we're often asked about how do consumers think about this sustainability, and so we've done some research globally. I'm showing you the US data here, but we've looked at, there's really kind of 5 segments around this idea of sustainability. I think the big thing that we are really seeing is, again, sustainability, it's evolving to be more than just about the environment. It really has this social aspect, and so you can see we've got people, evangelists, right? These are heavy organic shoppers. The first 2 groups, super heavy. They're super interested in the planet and people, but this healthy me and healthy planet, again, opportunity we think for the organic shoppers. You have people that are minimalists that say they don't care about sustainability, they don't really care, but actually when we look at what they do, they are super sustainable. They actually live very, very sustainably. The idealists are, we think, an interesting area for the organic industry. They don't index high today, but they actually should. These are people that say they care about the environment, but they struggle with actually doing and putting it into action. But in particular, these are people that are passionate about all of the aspects, the farmers, the social aspects overall. And I also just want to call out these skeptics. We have 34% of people in the US who are skeptics. We're higher, we did this research globally, we're higher than any other country. Truthfully, we politicized sustainability, right? For many consumers, it's anti-woke. This is a challenge too, and I think this is a reality as we think about how do we talk to consumers and how do we message consumers. Things like carbon, these consumers love it, right? They're very educated. Carbon is polarizing for the skeptics, and so really a lot of opportunities to dive into this deeper. Now, I also want to say it's not that skeptics don't care about anything. We actually find that they do care about certain things. They care very much about fair trade. So it's not that they're like completely, climate deniers overall. And as you would expect, as you kind of think about this, they do shop the store differently. So this is just a little bit of a perspective of what categories across the store that these different groups prioritize overall. As I close out, we are bringing up an amazing panel that is amazing experts and can talk about this in much more detail. But the reason I wanted to kind of share this broader perspective around health and wellness is we do think there's just some great opportunities for the organic messaging, knowing what consumers are saying they're looking for, knowing what they're perceiving organic to be about, and knowing what they just personally want from their health and wellness and this intermingling. Just some great opportunities we think for organic overall. But with that, I would love to open it up for any questions that you might have, and I'll be here after the panel as well if you have questions. Is it when a data person says, don't believe my data, that you're like... Unless it's tough.
I don't think it's tough. Okay, hi, and thank you so much. That was a lot. That was amazing. I'm also a data nerd. I'm wondering if you could elaborate on a slide. It talked about positioning, and there was organic certified, USDA organic positioning. I saw organic in 3 or 4 or 5 places, and I'm wondering if you could explain the difference between those circles.
Yeah, let me actually take you back to the main... I'm going to take you back to the first page that has the list of them. I think it'd be easier to kind of define it that way because it'll be the same circles that are on there. Sorry, it's just a little slow going backwards. That's okay. So the ways that we track it are, and so you might have seen a lot of those little smaller bullets with some of these sub-bullets here, but we track organic positioning, and this is anything where there's a symbol, a logo, certification, et cetera. That's the biggest, and that's pretty much anytime you'll see any data trends from us, we'll usually use that one throughout just to keep it simple and because it's the most all-encompassing. But then there are some where we are seeing like specific marketing claims where it may be in the brand name, but there may not be an actual certification on, or you'll see that there are ingredients that are included, organic ingredients. And then there's specific if there's a call out of a USDA certification. So these are not all mutually exclusive, I guess, is probably what I should have started with. Because then you can see here in terms of, we also look at the percentage of organic that is in it, and then a much smaller, these are also, I should say, in order of size, so largest to smallest than the EU farming certified, or stated. All right. Well, like I said, this presentation is up on the site, so please feel free and use it. And if you have questions, I think my contact information is there as well.
Thank you, Sherry. And again, as she said, her presentation is up on the supply side site, or you can give us your card and we can send it to you as well. And then now we're going to call up our panel. Let's get us back to where we need to go. You guys can come up. Yeah. Work through it. Okay. There we go. The wheel is just after this. That's all three.
Okay. Testing, testing. Coming through. Great. Well, welcome everybody to our session today. It's nice to see you. We're going to get to know each other out of the gate here a little bit. So rather than me sitting up here and reading a bio or bios, we're going to avoid that, and I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to say a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and why you got into organic. So that's where we're going to start off. And then I might ask some questions of all of you so we can get to know one another, and then we're going to take it from there. I have some questions. We may go into these questions, or I may surprise the panelists with questions that they're not prepared for. But I'd just like to say thank you for being here, Maxine, Joe, Ashley, and Tess. We're going to have a great time up here, and appreciate everybody showing up here at the end of the day. So out of the gate, Tess, why don't we start with you, and then we can just go moving that way.
Sure. Thanks for asking me to be on the panel. This has been really, really fun and really eye-opening, and I really appreciated all the data. The data was really great, so thank you for that. It means a lot to me looking at it and seeing the trends. I think it's great. My name's Tess Barr, and I'm co-owner and founder of Bright Pharma Caps, and we are the world's first and at this time only organic two-piece hard shell capsule manufacturer. And we're in, thank you. It's been a labor of love for sure. And it doesn't come without its challenges, but it's worth it. It's worth every minute of everything that we've gone through to bring this to fruition. And it's desperately needed in the marketplace. We just felt it was just such work to undergo, but it's been worth every single trial and tribulation, every single victory, and so we're really proud to be sitting here.
Great, and thank you so much, Tess. I actually have a long time history with the vegetarian capsules, so little known fact, when it comes to encapsulated products, unless that capsule is certified organic, you will not see the USDA organic seal on that product because of the weight of the capsule.
Exactly.
It may be, all the ingredients may be organic, but to actually get that USDA seal. So we haven't seen that USDA seal on capsules for a very long time. So Tess, thank you.
You're welcome. The other piece of that is it also has to be manufactured in an organic certified facility. So there's a lot more to that puzzle.
And we'll get into that. So fantastic. Ashley.
Yes, hi. I'm Ashley Matheson Scholl. I'm the president of Protein Research, and Protein Research is a contract manufacturer for powders, tablets, and capsules, and we are organic certified through CCOF Organic. And I've been with the company for 18 years, and I started as a buyer. So I was buying ingredients for our customers who were organic. and that was in the early 90s. So we've been doing it about 20 years, and that's about as long as organic has been out. About 60% of the products we're producing now are organic. So as a contract manufacturer, that's a lot. So we really take a lot of pride in making sure that our supply chain and all of the things that you need to make sure that you're buttoned up, from the aspect of the customer, their brand, their labels, everything has to be vetted. And so that's protein research.
Thank you, Ashley, and thanks for putting some numbers in there. I did a little bit of my own math as I was looking at us collectively, and I think that we together, are you ready? We have about 100 years of combined experience sitting up here. So, however you want to read that, right?
Yeah.
Right, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe Rullo. I've been at Saranda going on like 20 years now. Well, 19 years, sorry. And the company was started in 94, so it's going on. It's finishing up its 30th year in organic. I'm the head of sustainability there. I started in sales, and most of my career has been around the commercial and operations. So seen a lot of fun changes and challenges over the years. And the last year or so, I've been in sustainability, really kind of opening up my eyes into this different way of looking at things. So organic's always been instilled at the inception of Saranda since its beginning, and always in the belief that it's better for the planet and the people. And it's also what's led people and folks like myself into the door since the time I came and joined Saranda about 19 years ago. I was wanting to find a way in the world to take a step back from this two-step forward approach. So it's something that organic I felt had strong values and led me in there. So thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here, and what a great show, and here we go.
Hi, Maxine Weber, and I'm from Ashland. We have a lot of organic ingredients. We have a lot of interesting vitamins, organic aloe. But most recently, we've also decided that the market needed binders, because it's great that you have a lot of botanicals, but a lot of times they're very hard to compress, especially if you're making a tablet. So we've recently launched a couple of very interesting organic binders. And I've been with the company about 8 years.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. So, quick question to the audience. How many people here have consumed a gummy today? That would be a, organic gummy. 2 hands in the back. This gentleman's probably had too much. We call that the gummy dam. Okay. How many people in the room, if you see organic on the shelf, do you think to yourself, one of the requirements of that product is that the farmer is maintaining and improving soil health? If you know that, raise your hand. If you didn't know that, raise your hand. Okay, all right, just trying to judge the audience, the knowledge of the audience. How many people are here today to learn about ways to be able to better sell your organic products to consumers? All right. All right. Would anybody like to stand up and tell me why you're here today? Just quickly. Raise your hand. Shout it out. Why are you here today?
My name is...
Mixing it up a little bit. Can I do this right out of the gate?
My name is Linda Johnson, and I represent Mariquin Organic International. And this company was started by Grace Mariquin, and she spent 30 years in this industry creating organic demand for ingredients. And 3 years ago, she decided to retire, and supplier Agrana from Austria had been her supplier for 20 years, and they bought us. I'm here today because I feel that the organic certification is under attack, and all I do is sell organic ingredients. And I want to be a part of the movement to stop this attack and find more of an encompassing world where we all work together to make sure this organic movement continues to grow. I'm starting to feel a real pushback, and I think all of us in the room need to be very aggressive in promoting organic. So that's why I'm here, and I've been at every single one of these presentations through all these shows, and that's what we need is organic support.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we're going to continue to engage with everyone when we come back around to the Q&A, but thank you for setting the stage. I really appreciate that, and thanks to all the great work that Mariquin International has done. So I'd like to just go across the line here, and let's talk a little bit about the amazing data that was presented. Now, honestly, I'm seeing a lot of that data for the first time today. And I don't know how many of us are seeing it for the first time today. We might have had a look at it at Expo East or in other previous venues. So we're going to be spontaneous on the spot here. I'd like to go through and share, what is surprising? What did you learn that you didn't know? And when looking at it, how does that reflect what you're seeing in your own business and your own experience? Why don't we start with you, Maxine?
I would say that it's not the first time I've seen the data because I saw it at East. It was very interesting, seeing it twice. But I think it's most interesting about the skeptics because the fact that their say-do ratio is very inverted, that they are doing a lot more than they say. So I'm not sure if they're like closet organic lovers. So maybe we have to encourage them to come out of the closet, out of the organic closet. But to me, that was the most interesting aspect, that there's people, you can think that in their heart of hearts, they really know that it's the right thing to do.
Are you a closet organic?
I am not a closet organic.
You're out.
I'm out.
It's a safe place otherwise.
All right, Joe, how about you?
Yeah, I saw the data as well as Expo East, and like Maxine said, that 50% that's kind of in that laggard side, like a huge educational opportunity. But today when I was looking at it again, it was kind of resonating, and to your point about bonding together with an organic. Organic started as a movement with commitment, and I think that commitment is still the fuel of the initial flame that's kind of kept us going the last 30 or 40 years. And seeing that data as well that Sherry you presented, and that consumers see it, there's that commitment. So I think that really kind of resonated with me. At the end of the day, we're like a little ingredients or a few words on the back, and that label reading part, that's so true. And there's great stories with a lot of the products we have as ingredient suppliers and how to really bring that forth through. But that commitment, I think, is at the core of it.
Fantastic, thanks. I'll just say that the thing that I was most surprised about was the bagels. I didn't realize I had been eating that many bagels. I saw that growth category and I thought, my gosh, that's all me. It's all me. So, Ashley, how about you?
Okay, so today was my first time seeing the in-depth information. And the most surprising for me was the difference in having the USDA certified organic versus just that made with claim, and the differences of how that really, because we do so many products and they're, when I'm saying 60% organic, it can be 70% and above, or it can be, the 95. Obviously that to us right now is in our business the most critical, because people are trying to go non-GMO. People are saying, I don't want the artificial colors, chemicals, pesticides in my food. And so being able to share this information and data and educate the customers, especially when they're on the onset and they have these values that they're trying to portray, sustainability, another huge one, is really big. So I think that just that difference, right? There were people that really cared about USDA. It was a little bit higher than the just made with claim. So you might have to take that extra step and go all the way if you truly are passionate. So.
Right, that's a good point, and I'll jump in and just, it's interesting where this market has gone with that USDA organic seal and the trust with that USDA organic seal. The tough thing is that the regulations get very nuanced. So a USDA organic seal for that 95% plus product, the made with category, which is 70%, that is also a USDA organic certified product, right? Non-GMO is not allowed, but it is much harder to engage the consumer. It's much harder to be able to tell the consumer that that is a USDA certified organic product in that made with category. It does have that 30% non-organic. So, right there, you can just start glossing over. What did I just say, right? And then you're at the shelf and you're trying to make a decision. And so there's a lot to understand about the USDA organic seal and what's behind that seal. And I think that, this is going to get into what we're going to look at today in terms of, the barriers to organic certification and how to best message organic and all of its benefits, because it's not just one, it's many. It's the sum of all its parts. So, Tess.
Well, I guess what was surprising to me is something that I already probably knew in the back of my mind the health statistic data of people that don't eat organic, that have the diabetes and the prediabetes and all of these health problems. And I guess you go along and you say, well, yeah, maybe that's people should eat better, they'll be in better health. But those numbers were pretty staggering. That really surprised me. Really, really did. It's very, very eye-opening that the number is that great.
What would you say, what do you think is the most common misunderstanding about organic?
Misunderstanding? Probably that I think that a lot of people really don't know how much work it is to get an organic product certified. I think they just think, oh, they've got an organic product. There must be a test for that. Maybe you send it in and it's organic. I don't think people understand how much hard work actually goes into it, what we go through expense-wise and compliance-wise to bring an organic product to fruition.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah. The price point and everything, and you really have so much more regulatory and work involved in it, and it's why you really need to go with someone that you trust too when you're working. Trusted certifier, like everybody down the chain needs to be trusted. Your raw materials.
Absolutely. And it continues. It doesn't just end with getting certified. It's ongoing, always ongoing.
Joe, what would you say is the most common misunderstanding about organic?
There's always a few. I think that definitely it's too expensive and what all the grit and hard work that goes into that. But one I was thinking about more recently is also just the fact that, organic is it's not viable, or it could starve the world, but it's not really true when you think about the yields and the factors that go in and the emissions and all of that intensity with chemical agriculture. So I think that sometimes for me is also important. So as we get more data and bring this out and this information out, I think it'll help as well.
And Maxine, what would you say is the most common misunderstanding about organic?
I don't know about it's the most common, but I would say one maybe misunderstood aspect is I think there's maybe some assumptions that organic products are either less efficacious or they're sort of like gentler, meaning, somehow they've taken, there's good things in there, but maybe some other things that aren't in there that could make it, I don't know, more powerful or stronger, especially related to supplements.
Well, I want to take a closer look at, what is behind the USDA organic seal and connect back to all of the great data that we were just looking at. I'm going to put a visual up on the screen. We saw this earlier. This is the Organic Sustainability Wheel. And this is something that was created by the Organic Trade Association. I'll give you a little bit of background behind this wheel, and then we'll look at ask some questions about it. This wheel was created really with an attempt to be able to, number one, talk to retailers that are making choices and really kind of creating the accessibility to certain products, right? Retailers are going to choose what products to put on those shelves. And we were finding that a lot of the large retailers were creating sustainability programs, climate smart programs with some sort of a screening function. And they were screening certifications to decide which certifications would qualify for this sustainability or this climate friendly program. And they were screening out USDA organic. So there were certified organic companies that were not getting shelf space, for example, and I'm going to avoid using any names just to be respectful, but they weren't getting shelf space for a very, very large retailer that was selling a lot of organic products. So things weren't adding up. And so as I started reaching out and talking to the retailers, they would say, well, organic's kind of a thing of the past, and it's been around for a long time, and really what we're focused on right now is regenerative. We are really focusing on certifications that are about improving soil quality, biodiversity, certifications that help the environment, where organic is really about pesticide-free and not using toxic chemicals. And yes, that's important, and we know that consumers want that, but right now what's going to sell and the real interest is sustainability. soil health, regenerative. I said, oh dear, okay, so we have a lot of educating to do, because as they went through their list, I said, well, okay, but wait, let me show you through 20 years of data how organic is good for the planet, how it does sequester carbon, how it does, et cetera, et cetera. So this wheel was created with an accompanying document that's called The Benefits, the Science Behind Organic. So every slice of the wheel here, the pie, it has an attribute about organic, but it starts with a specific requirement in the regulation. That requirement results in a practice, and that practice then is tied to an outcome, and that outcome is tied to peer-reviewed science, reputable data that supports that attribute that's up there. So this wheel is really showing good for the planet, good for people, good for the business, everything that's behind that seal. Look at a shelf, look at the product, one single attribute, somebody sees non-GMO, it's a lot easier to grab right for that product. So this wheel, part of a toolkit, really to message organic. So I just want to go through here and ask you, what do you find become the barriers to being able to engage, like not just message but talk to a consumer, but really engage the consumer. How do we take all of these great benefits? How do we elevate? How do we talk to the consumer when there's so much behind the USDA seal? It's so complex. So Maxine, just your ideas on how do we get this message out that, you say it, well, yeah, we've got a label for it. That's organic.
Well, I think because there are so many attributes, it's I think it might be very hard for a consumer to wrap their heads around. I know that even 6 months ago, we were having a discussion internally at the office. People were saying, I've heard some others talk about regenerative, and what does that mean really? And we're in the business, so it's hard to even think about the fact that maybe fellow scientists that are in our office don't even understand what does regenerative mean. So, perhaps there has to be just some general organic advertising to help educate, or maybe common language that goes across many different suppliers and brands, so everyone is kind of singing off the same songbook.
Singing out of the same songbook, right?
The organic songbook.
The organic songbook. Get everybody the toolkit. Joe, how about you?
I think I told someone we'd be singing later, so I think that's how we'll.
Yeah, I
wrap
think
up
singing would
Q&A.
help.
I think you said it, Sherry, too, that it's like data overload, right? There's a lot of confusion, a lot of consumer confusion, and as I've worked now in sustainability and working on our ESGs, when I see the wheel, and by the way, those that don't know Gwendolyn, she's like an organic hero, superhero, and put a little round of applause to your work, I know, with the OTA on that wheel. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous being up here, being moderated by Gwendolyn if it doesn't show. But as I look at our ESGs and we think about our stakeholders, which are our consumers, our own employees, et cetera, our suppliers, as we're trying to message those different groups, there's something on that wheel for how to align our values and get that messaging out. So as they're calling for more action and data, you've got this tool. It's a lot, but pick 2 or 3 things, I think, and just work on them in your messaging to those various groups. I mean, we exposed our whole company to it, and it was really an engaging exercise. Gwendolyn, you were part of that. But take it deeper, bring it within your sales team and within your various teams and getting those, tying that messaging through. So I think it can be super important. I know it's going to be like a little bit of a cheat sheet for me when I work on our ESGs, just making sure we get those synergies in our messaging.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I reflect back on the data that we saw that, to me, I'm surprised to see that the health, the for me, continues to be at the top, because right now all I am hearing is regenerative, environmental, which is great, but I think it has to be both. And so I'm curious about, how bringing that discussion together, because I think I hear the regenerative discussion, and I think it's more of a conversation that's happening where organic is in a separate conversation. How we need to bring those conversations together as much as possible. So, on that same note, how do we elevate organic? How do we help, really help educate and let consumers know everything that's behind that USDA seal?
Yeah, it's definitely education, like education. 15 years ago, Cliff Bar, they were a pioneer of all of this, right? Like there was earlier than 15 years ago, they were doing it. But I was constantly invited to something that they did. It was called a supplier summit. And every year they would have all their co-men, all their vendors, suppliers, some of you in this room might have even attended. And it was an annual summit. And they showed, much like this wheel, it was their 5 aspirations, but they explained organic to everyone. And they spent an entire day and they gave it was at the time, that was 15 years ago. If everyone today who's saying oh, we've got a goal to make our brand, 0 emissions by 2030 and all these things like you're saying, I'm hearing it, I'm seeing it all over LinkedIn. Everyone's trying to be regenerative, have this thing. And yeah, you make an organic product, you tie the two together, and you really do bring everyone in. I think I'm definitely taking this wheel and the toolkit that was sent over to my company to start, and we'll do a training on it. And then I think getting the customers that are organic, sharing this with them, and just getting it out there is probably the number one thing we can do right now.
Great, that's fantastic. And I know I've seen some other companies that have taken this toolkit because there's a lot going on with the wheel. I've had some folks at marketing saying, yeah, nice start, right? Nice start, but that's still a little busy. So there's another great campaign that's out there. They've got their own look, their own feel. It's called Organic is the Answer, but they're using the data from that toolkit. They're able to have all, points all around the wheel, and they're doing a great job, and they're getting it out on the sides of trucks going down the road and billboards, and they're really, putting some dollars behind it to spread the word. So that's the idea with this toolkit, and getting people to, sing from the same songbook. So Maxine, now that you have the USDA organic seal going on encapsulated products out there, how are you going to message what's behind that USDA organic seal?
Well, we educate our suppliers because we're not the and it's not our label on the product. It's our suppliers. So we do a lot of educating of our suppliers and really tell them, and most of our suppliers are very educated, especially if they're looking for organic. They know what they're looking for. They know what they're shopping for. So we put a lot of education, specification sheets, any data that we have, where we're so transparent, where we do everything, where we're manufacturing from, where everything that goes into our product. And so we make sure that our customers are very educated.
There's a lot of people, right? There's
Yep.
From the suppliers, the distributors, there's so many people that are out there, front line talking to other people. So that's a great way to do it. Nancy, checking in with you on time. We're doing good? Okay. So we're going to shift a little bit because I think that, you're hearing there's all these great benefits. There's, so many reasons to go organic. We've seen from the data, we're hearing from everybody up here that, this is where the market is going. There are shoppers out there, they're looking. They want it to be healthy for them. They want it to be healthy for the planet. The retailers and everybody at the end of the day, they want it to be good for the bottom line, right? I think that's something that probably we don't talk too much about, but we should talk more about. We get a little scared to talk about the economic piece of it, right? It's good for business, but come on, right? What the word economy, home management, right? It's just how we manage our home. It's how we make sure that our planet is healthy and sustainable. But now you want to go organic. You need to go organic. So this is our pivot, right? Because I think our talk is, barriers to organic certification. So how do you become organic? How difficult is it? Oh, it's really difficult. It's expensive. So let's talk about organic certification. And Tessa, we're going to come back to the point that you started talking about this a little bit more. Organic certification. Yeah, it's a little bit hard, but why is it worth it?
Well, it's worth it to us because one of the main problems in this industry is there has never been an organic capsule. And so you're not able to say organic or use that green seal on your product. And it's really a great breakthrough to have that. And yes, it's difficult, but it's definitely worth it when you can see when people come up and they go, it just happened to me an hour ago. You've got an organic capsule? How come I don't know about you? How come I don't know about this? And so I think that even though we've gone through lots of costly hurdles that we've had to go through. One of them is you can't possibly make an organic capsule. There's no way to make it. Nobody's done it. Nobody can do it. How come you can do it? We don't believe that this is an organic capsule. It's absolutely impossible to do. And so I think that, and it is costly and expensive. I mean, our factories, they have to check the air ducts that the air goes through, the venting. All of that has to be certified organic. They have to certify the cleaners that you clean the floors with. They have to certify every single little thing, every single little process of anything that might happen has to be certified organic in the factory. So it's not just they go through and they go, oh, okay, yeah, this is great. This is a clean facility. Okay, you're certified organic. It's not that. And it is costly.
Ashley, what are your thoughts on certification? What sets organic aside? Why is it worth it? Beyond everything that we're just talking about here.
Yeah, so this industry, a lot of times you hear that, it's not regulated. And this, if you're USDA organic, it is federally regulated. And there are companies out there who are looking for, organic fraud. And it's an actual symbol that means something, and it's regulated. So I think that has to stand for more, because if they're sitting here saying nothing's regulated and we need more transparency and we need all this stuff in this industry, then this is truly, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Every time that a label comes through, a label change, you need to vet it through CCOF Organic or whoever your certifying body is. And there's so many times when you're in a rush because you've got, you're almost out of product and your customer's screaming at you and you still have to do like a 2-day, 3-day rush and get everything on the lines. And it's that extra step. And they come in every year. It's annual. They'll come in and audit you. It's a full day of sitting down at minimum, going through every single raw material, which, it's a list of raw materials. It's a list of finished products. And they are verifying that everything that you're doing is accurate and there's traceability there. And so that's, yeah.
Agreed. I think this is really getting to the heart of what sets organic aside from all the other eco labels in the marketplace. Organic really is the only term that's federally defined, third-party certified, right? Annual on-site inspections plus unannounced inspections.
Yeah.
Plus it has the oversight of the USDA. So there's that layer where you have enforcement and you have USDA that's going in and inspecting the certifiers that are doing the third-party certification. So, that's the piece with organic when you start looking at all the other single attributes and all the other certifications out there, is that this is the only label that has that federal guarantee to it. So, Joe, could you talk a little bit more about how that is part of your business and how that really helps you succeed?
Yeah, I think it's important. And it is out of the 30 or 50 types of sustainable certificates you see out there, it's the only one you said federally regulated. And you can go to jail, as we know. So, this is a big concern with fraud. I think it's hard work. It takes longer. There's more commitment that's needed to be an organic. And so what's important is just to think about, for our business, all of our businesses, that it's harder. But harder is probably better. So I think it's taking baby steps, and historically organic has been a little bit like it's hard to get there, whatever. But I think celebrate those wins as companies and brands want to take those steps. It takes time to transition. There's those upfront costs. So I think the education piece is really important, and so I think taking those baby steps. But going back to the integrity, that is at the core of it. That circle with that little border around it. And I know we didn't talk about it much today, but there's been a lot of talk. Last year we talked about the SOE that's coming. It's just a few months away.
He said SOE, which is an acronym for Strengthening Organic Enforcement. Go ahead, keep going. Just
sorry
talk
about
that a little
acronyms.
bit
I'm
more.
bad. There's another one I'm going to throw out, and let's see if I can get it. it's maybe a little bit of a sleeping giant in organic, but it was passed a bill on October 17th called CHOW, and I'm hoping CHOW, continuous improvements and accountability in organic standards, and hopefully it's a way to say goodbye to the slower movements at the legislative level. Organic has always needed to, it's not doing this, it's not doing enough about that, but this is hopefully an opportunity to maybe speed those things up a little bit. Last year I had my first dipping my toe in on the Hill, so I'm not very well versed on it, but I think this is an important piece. It's a farm bill year too. For those that don't know, organic is around 6% of total sales in the U.S., but of the farm bill it's like 0.1%. So just to wrap our head around that, could you imagine if we got a 0.5% or something, how much impact that could make? But anyways, I kind of digressed. But
Maxine?
Well, for us, in terms of the good for business, when we have the USDA organic seal, we also are able to sell into other countries that recognize that seal, and so you don't have to get duplicate certification. So you can go into Europe because the EU is recognizing USDA organic, South Korea, there's probably some others I'm not aware of, but for us that really is helping because we know we're a global company and some of our ingredients are in demand in other countries, and that just makes it a lot easier.
That's a really important point. It's global trade, and there's equivalency arrangements with EU, Canada, many other countries. I know we certainly want to increase domestic production here in the United States, but we're very reliant on imports, and that USDA organic seal really helps that translation and the global conversation in terms of how to bring together all the various ingredients. And certainly for the supplement sector, we're bringing in a lot of herbs from other countries, so incredibly helpful. So let's just keep going around here. I have another quick question about certification, but real quick, how many people in the room are certified organic business? Okay, number. Anybody in the room that is wanting to go certified, thinking about it? You haven't gone there yet? Okay. Well, maybe I won't ask. I was going to say, what sort of advice for somebody that wants to go certified organic, but it's a hurdle for them. But we don't have anybody in the room that wants to get certified?
if you're out there listening, don't be shy.
That's right. Nancy, how are we on time check? We're good? Okay, all right, great. I want to ask the panelists if you have questions for one another. See, on the spot. Joe said we were going to do it like jazz. We're just going to keep this going, and I've been asking all the questions, so this is my chance to lean back and see if you have any questions for one another.
I think we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
I think we are.
Yeah, I think so.
Good boat.
Great, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to open it up then, I think. Let's do some Q&A with the audience. We've got hands going up right away, and the first one I saw, I think, and well, he's in the back. He's like, come on, me. All right, in the back. All right. And then we're going to go to the front, because I think your hand might have shot up first, actually. But you go ahead.
I've been involved in some of these before, and I've asked this question before. You brought up international trade and dealing with the EU, and I've asked before, and especially as a organic capsule manufacturer, Europe, you can put organic material in a non-organic HPMC capsule, get organic certified. You can bring it into the U.S. The USDA has to approve it, and they can sell it in the U.S. with a non-organic capsule. I don't know how you guys let that go. I don't know who to blame, but I've asked this in years past, and nobody's doing anything about it.
That's my husband. Someone else respond.
That's your husband?
Yes, it is.
Full disclosure, right?
You started
I don't know if I want to step in the middle of that or not.
It's okay.
Do you want to respond to that?
I feel not well equipped for it, but is it because of the lack of availability of the? No, it's not. Sorry.
I think so an equivalency arrangement, you say the equivalency between the United States and Europe, it's just that. It's an equivalency. The regulations are similar, but they're not identical. And so when these equivalency arrangements are put into place, they decide what can we live with, what can we not live with. And so for the things that they can't live with, there would be a variance, right? So antibiotics is a really good example where you have in the EU, they allow antibiotics in livestock. In the United States, they don't. So that's something that but then we used to allow antibiotics in organic apple production, but the EU didn't. So we couldn't agree on this, so that was a variance. So if you were going to bring a product into the United States, certifiers would ask the question, do you use antibiotics? If the answer is yes, wouldn't allow it. When you get into the materials, when you get into the inputs, for the most part, with the exception of like antibiotics, essentially that HPMC has just never been flagged as something that they considered to be significant enough to create a variance for it.
They don't recognize that you can't do it in the U.S. because of the weight. It makes it under, the organic level.
Right. You shouldn't be able to label it as a USDA organic. Yeah, it wouldn't meet the qualifications. So separately, from a composition perspective, it would not meet that 95% requirement.
Hi, Karen Howard with the Organic and Natural Health Association, Trade Association of Dietary Supplement Spouse. Full disclosure, Tess is one of our members.
Oh, you're another marriage.
Family. It's all family. So, Patrick, yes, Patrick brings up an interesting segue into the point I want to make and ask a question about, which is, in many ways we will live and die on the organic standard. It only gets more essential every day, especially when you look at issues like synthetic biology, quote, precision fermentation, the amount of products that are on this floor that are being derived with GMO inputs, and all we're waiting for is the perfect science to find the DNA, which we will. But in the meantime, issues like this and problems that our own community has with the organic standard. I could pick growing tomatoes in water as an example. But, we all know that there have been struggles to maintain that standard, and consumers know this. They're not, organic consumers are extremely savvy people, even if everybody on the chart is not. So I'm like, are we unifiedly committed to being able to improve, constant approval on the organic standard? To your point, while regenerative doesn't have a definition, biodynamic is a whole lot older than the organic standard. So why are we not working more diligently to improve the organic standard so we can incorporate some of these proven practices into what we have?
So, Joe, do you want to start off with that one? Why are we not working diligently to improve the organic standards to incorporate what consumers are interested in, some of these other components of, am I understanding the question? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're thinking like soil health, the term like regenerative, and yeah, I think I'll at least take a stab. I feel like this is a very touchy one right now, topic, with soil health and organic, and I think organic is like a step into proper, I think, regenerative type practices and that. So I think getting those messages around that are important. I think some of the legislative changes that we talked about a little bit, this CHOW, I'm hopeful and grateful for it. I mean, it just went into act, so I think it has to, to be seen. So I think that's a big part of it too, because changes maybe are needed and stuff. And so as we demand those or we need those as a collective organic community, and we got to get our voice out there. I think this is important. So hopefully we'll start to see some results. I don't know if that maybe touches on it, but I think that tool showing the data is a big part that everybody needs. So connecting those dots.
Other comments on that? I'll do a little follow up just to note so that it's not missed. A huge victory yesterday. The Organic Livestock and Poultry Standard, 20 years in the making, was released. So finalized. So the animal welfare standards that have been, National Organic Standards Board's been working on for 20 years, finally made it across the finish line. So now we can say that, the chickens must go outside and have access to, meaningful outdoor access. So that took much longer than it should have, right? That's going to be a problem, right? Shoppers, they want things to happen a little bit faster than that. We all do. But that, at least, it happened. And what Joe is talking about in terms of the legislative efforts that are underway is to, basically look at the administrative process and remove a lot of the red tape so that we can make changes faster to the organic regulations. Regenerative is baked into the organic regulations, right? So there are soil health requirements. We put together at the Organic Trade Association kind of a side-by-side regenerative compared to organic. And I hate the comparisons, but it really was set up just to be able to, straight from the regulations, here are all the requirements that satisfy all of the requirements of regenerative agriculture. It is regenerative. Now, do we need to have some additional guidance to get everybody on the same page? Do we need more data? Do we need more to be able to demonstrate those improvements over time? Yes, but I would say 100% we can and should, and we are doing it within the organic regulations. That's continuous improvement. And so I beg people to not go outside of organic because we've established so much, right? 30 years in the making, we've got the law, we've got the regulation. Why would we go reinvent the wheel and start somewhere else? So patience, legislation, everybody coming together, unified, singing out of the same songbook. So, question over there.
Yeah, my name is Rachel Cheatham. I'm a PhD nutritionist, and I counsel and advise companies, mostly CPG, not so much supplements, but sometimes, on developing healthier products. And I use this wheel, and I have been taken to task on the phrasing highly nutritious, because it turns out pretty much any food attorney I've interacted with says stop. You cannot say organic is more nutritious. You cannot say organic is more nutrient dense. We have some data that says sometimes it is, the lycopene in our tomato, and we have other data that says no, the conventional had a higher density of lycopene. So I've been caught so many times, and I'm a nutritionist, not an attorney, and I don't expect an answer. But I would love your thoughts on this issue, if I can call it that, around how nutritious is organic compared to conventional. Highly, more, less. Like the language is tricky sometimes. Because consumers want to believe it is. Brands want to say it is, but there's this big but out there.
It is a really good question. I don't have an answer.
Even if it's not an actual answer, if anyone would be willing to just throw your thinking out there. I'm like a huge supporter of organic, but I've been hit up at this wall many a time.
I'm probably not going to answer it the way you want, plus in case any lawyers are watching or any are out there in the audience. But I think just thinking a step back even more holistically, like what we put in our bodies, obviously we generally correlate with healthy or not. But even thinking further back, like when we think about chemicals and the emissions that go into those, I know that's not nutrition, I don't mean to segue, but thinking about those and where do they go when they go into the soil, the nitrates, when they run off into a river somewhere. And I think just thinking about that cost that's impacted with that, I know again, but there's this awareness that people generally want more healthy. So I think there's maybe the opportunity to educate and look at some of those other direct or indirect factors around it too. I know I'm maybe a little bit off the edge. I'm not trying to skirt around it, but I think it's super valuable. And maybe collectively we can, look into that more and find ways we can strengthen those messages. So thank you for your question.
And I would just say, I think too that I'm assuming that whoever wrote the wheel may not have been thinking about, conventional tomato versus an organic, like a single ingredient, as opposed to an entire, like if we're talking about processed food or a multi-component food, that there's organic may have fewer fillers, so there may be just more healthy and nutritious ingredients in that whole food system.
One comment that Rodale Institute is also doing some really great research, and I do think the science and the research is coming along. They are doing some tracking nutrient more in the produce realm, but I think that this is something that may just still, if the more that the research is being worked on, things are happening. The conversation can change.
Yeah, that dirty dozen's been around forever, right? It's like even before people who I've interacted with that don't know much about organic, they know that there are those top ones that you need to be buying as organic because it's going to have the less pesticides and less everything and be grown in a much more nutritious way.
I'll just finish on that note that section of the wheel there is tied to a companion document called The Science Behind Organic that was put out by the Organic Center. And there's about 5 pages of line references to scientific, peer-reviewed science that supports that statement. It's not a statement that's saying organic is more nutritious than conventional. It's saying it's highly nutritious, and it's tied to data points. So if you're talking to FDA and you're trying to put it onto a label, yeah, you're going to get in trouble. But in this context, we're just saying that the science is building. We have a growing body of science, and we need to continue to point to the data.
So we're at time now. Thanks so much. Thank you to our panel and to Gwendolyn for moderating, and thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.